Hello 10th grade and welcome to our next virtual lesson. Today I'm going to be going over the prompt for formative writing task 2 and the 3 levels of analysis in preparation for your next essay. So the prompt for formative task 2 is, how does Coates convey the vulnerability of Black bodies as a central idea of part 1 of Between the World and Me? How do specific details in the text shape and refine the central idea? So the vulnerability of Black bodies is the central theme of this part of the text. If you are vulnerable, you are more susceptible to physical or emotional harm. So you'll be explaining how Coates develops this theme, shapes it, and refines it over the course of the text. If you want to see me go more into detail over this prompt, I posted a video of just the prompt itself 2 weeks ago. So this is another 4-paragraph essay, except for this essay, you'll only need 1 quote per body paragraph instead of the 2 that we did for formative task 1. The only source you'll be using is Between the World and Me. So first, you'll have an introduction paragraph with a hook, background information and a connection. So be sure that your background information connects back to the hook, and then a thesis statement. And if you need a refresher on how to write an introduction paragraph, there is a video on this channel for that as well. So for body 1, all the regular components of a body paragraph, topic, sentence, conclusion, but you'll only need 1 quote, be sure to cite it, and then the 3 levels of analysis. Second body paragraph, same thing. You'll just need 1 quote and the 3 levels of analysis. And then for your conclusion, be sure to restate the thesis, summarize your main points, and then don't forget that real world connection. So why is this essay still relevant today in terms of the topics that you talked about? So again, if you want to see me go more into detail over the structure of an essay, especially the intro and thesis, be sure to watch our video from 3 weeks ago. So now I'm going to be going over the 3 levels of analysis. I know this is something we struggled with in formative writing task 1 and something that a lot of us need a refresher on. So when we use a quotation in an essay, we all know that we need to analyze it. But most of the time, 1 sentence is not necessarily sufficient to do this. So after you give a quotation, there's 3 separate questions that I want you to answer. So the first is level 1. What does this quote mean? So just literally speaking, what does this quote actually mean? And you should explain it in a way that someone who has never read the book would still be able to understand. So especially if you're using a quote with a lot of figurative language, Coates likes to use a lot of metaphor. Make sure that you're explaining what this literally means. So next is level 2. What is the impact of this quote? So when we're asking this question, we're thinking about what is the impact of this quote on the main character or the main conflict of the story? And then this leads us into level 3, which is, why does this quote matter in general? So this is our connection back to the thesis. We've already explained what the quote literally means, how it impacts the story itself, and now you're connecting it back to your thesis. So basically, so what? Why does it matter? To your essay, why does it matter? We've explained why it matters in context of the book and in context of the characters, but for your overall point, why is this quote so significant? So level 3 is really important. That's where we are tying everything back to the thesis statement. So we shouldn't be using any quote or explanation that can't be tied back to the thesis itself. So we talked about how level 2 and level 3 are complex ideas during the school year. So we should be using complex sentences that start with subordinating conjunctions. So I'll be posting a list of these on Google Classroom, but I'm also going to give you an example from formative task 1 to help give you a better idea of how to answer these 3 questions. So this was a quotation that was used in formative writing task 1. This is from one of your body paragraphs. So the quotation is from Between the World and Me, and it says, I tell you now that the question of how one should live within a Black body, within a country lost in dreams, is the question of my life. And the pursuit of the question, I have found, ultimately answers itself. So this quote should be cited with the author's last name, Coates, and the page number. So let's look at the level 1, 2, and 3 analysis of this quotation. So level 1, what does this quote mean? This shows that race was always a question in the culture of Blacks pursuing the dream in this country. So for this level, she simply told us what the quote is saying, what it means. She's given some context to it so that if someone had never read the book, they would still be able to understand the quote. And then she goes into level 2. And since this is a more complex idea, then what does this literally mean? She starts with a subordinating conjunction to make this a complex sentence. So since is a subordinating conjunction. Now, level 2 is what is the impact on the main character or conflict of the book? So she says, since Coates argues that race is a social construct, he questions the validity of his pursuit of this dream in the first place. So this gives us an idea of why this quote is so significant to Coates himself. It's making him question the validity of the dream, whether or not it's obtainable for him. So now we kind of get a sense of why she used it. First, she just explained what it actually means, and now she's telling us why it's important to the book itself. So level 3, why does this matter, is where she should tie it back to her thesis statement and explain why it's relevant to her essay as a whole. And remember, for formative writing task 1, you were explaining whether or not Coates does a good job of arguing that race is a social construct. So somewhere in the level 3 analysis, she should mention the idea of race being a social construct. So again, she starts with another subordinating conjunction to make a complex sentence. She says, due to stereotyping and misleading information, Blacks constantly question their own identity. But since these are not based on fact, Coates proves that the idea of race is socially constructed. So even though this is one sentence, it has many different clauses or multiple clauses, making it a complex sentence because it's a very complex idea. This is not something she could convey in a simple sentence, but here she's tied it back to the thesis. She's saying that this proves that race is a socially constructed idea, which ties back to her thesis that Coates does a good job of arguing that race is a social construct. So again, that is an analysis just for one quote in a body paragraph. Obviously, she would also have to have her topic sentence, a brief explanation before going into the quote, then the quote, the 3 levels of analysis, and she would add a conclusion sentence. But I wanted to highlight just the 3 levels of analysis since this is an area we really need to review before moving on to the next task. So again, don't forget when you use a quotation, cite it with the author's last name and page number. Tell me what the quote means. What is the impact of this quote? And why does this quote matter? So good luck writing formative task 2. If you need any ideas or helps for finding quotes, I did several close reading lessons, one last week, that you're welcome to take quotes from. And again, feel free to reach out to me if you need any additional support. Have a great day.